So, welcome everybody to Table Work, UWM Theater's new podcast. Today we're with Ryan Cappleman, who is a Milwaukee performer, director, music director, choreographer, and collaborative pianist. Oh my gosh, business owner, former UWM alumni. um, and what else? What else am I missing?
Dog dad.
Dog dad, that most important one. How could I forget?
As artists, this is when we really get to work.
Dive into what you love.
Get up in the morning and make art.
Pursue as much opportunity as we can handle.
We're going to be making what the future looks like.
Yeah, so welcome, Ryan. Thank you again for taking the time to join us in this conversation. So to kick things off, let's talk a little bit about music directing. And did you choreograph as well, working?
That's a funny story. Yes, I did a little bit of choreography for it. So we were in a weird situation because we started rehearsing way back in September with intentions of opening in November, and so we ended up postponing, which was really smart and keep everybody safe. It was just kind of like thing after thing after thing was happening. Like there was a snowstorm. There were some numbers that just also were never. It was never decided like who was going to stage this. Like we had a student choreographer, Erin Jensen, who did a phenomenal job, and I was able to sort of guide her a little bit as well with the choreography she did do. And then we had a few students who had to drop out just because they had other commitments by that point. So I inherited everything and staged it on the spot, and the kids had very little time to learn it and perfect it by filming date, which was the following week. So
During the new semester, did you guys like meet virtually at first and then like small groups, or how did that kind of play out with the pandemic?
yeah, so when we came back, it was streamlined really quick. We had a week of virtual rehearsals where they could sign up for coachings kind of as needed. And so we had to replace the cast members we lost, and so it was mostly devoted to those students. And then we had 4 days of in-person rehearsal where we did 1 day of music. We did pretty much 3 days of staging, like crash course staging and choreography. And then the third week back, we had 1 day in the space and then 2 days of filming. So
That's so intense, though.
I was exhausted by the end of it.
How was taking like a new student under your wing, and like teaching them this new process that they may or may not have known before?
Well, right at the beginning of rehearsal, Raylene asked, like, the cast, does anybody have interest in choreographing a number or a moment in the show? So I chimed in and I was like, okay, you guys, listen. If you want to be working all the time in this field, you need to be versatile. You need to be able to do things when you don't have a performing gig. And so whether that is being on the wardrobe or being a stitcher or a set painter or a choreographer or a director, that is how I have sustained this career. And so I told them, even if you've never choreographed before, like this is a great opportunity to learn how. It only took one person to ask me to choreograph something for me to realize, oh, okay, I actually am kind of decent at this. And then I booked the next gig after that and the next gig after that. And then I was getting better because I was doing it more often. I was working with directors who had really great insight on choreography. And you just learn it by doing it, because you don't really go to school to be like, I'd like a BFA in choreographing musicals, and like it was working with Erin was really fun, because she had a lot of great steps, and so it was finding ways to justify why those steps were in the show and trying to put some intention behind those steps and try to make those what is like a traditional dance step into something that looks more pedestrian, into something that looks like the Mason would do it.
The show, and like it's very much about people and like the working class kind of thing. And I don't know, how do you feel like that relates to Milwaukee audiences, especially during like this time where a lot of us are having to kind of redefine our jobs and how to do them from an at-home kind of space?
because we're in a time where essential worker has become part of our vocabulary, shining light on jobs and the people, most importantly, who are in these jobs, um, and how they feel about their what they have either chosen to do or are obligated to do. It really shines a light on these people's souls, and it show like a waitress isn't just a waitress, right? Like there is a person in there who has feelings, who needs to provide for a family, who uh, is doing the best she can, right? And that could be someone who loves her job, who will do it till the day she dies. And does that mean she's going to have, you know, riches and wealth and a in-ground pool and a mansion? No, like not necessarily, but is it going to make her happy? Yes. That that there's a song in this musical where she just sings about the joy of this job, and something that some people could really judge and view as like a servile position. People like that has been like you feel a sense of duty to these people. You feel an honor in representing these people's stories, and I've absolutely fallen in love with this show and these stories, and it's become one of my favorite shows.
Earlier you were saying to survive in this field you need to be versatile. You need to have like um a lot of different skills like kind of that you can pull out of your back pocket. How do you feel like that choreography skill helped you, or directing skill, or music directing skill, like helped you kind of like immerse yourself in the Milwaukee theater community?
I started as a pianist, and that was how I got my foot in the door at a lot of professional companies in town. And so that was kind of like the introduction, and then it turned into like, wait, you're a performer too? Wait, you're a choreographer too? Wait, you do all of these things? And so it's like constantly surprising people with what you can do, and then they're like, okay, I need you for this job and this gig. But it also helps you with understanding how people work together and how to communicate with all different people on the production staff. In a professional setting, it's like you really learn how to communicate with the whole design team. And I've had wonderful moments of collaboration where like the prop designer has brought forth an idea of something that I can use in my choreography, and vice versa. The lighting designers, right? Like they accentuate the work, and sometimes they hide the boo boo spots, right? And like the I had a costume. I worked with a Tony Award winning costume designer one time, who she took Kiss Me Kate out of the 40s and put it in like the late 60s, which we were like, you can't do that. It's so specifically 40s, and like it worked so incredibly well. And uh, instead of taking like Too Darn Hot and having them like in their Taming of the Shrew costumes, like they were already pretty much scantily clad. It's like they got out of costume, and it's like, okay, the number wouldn't have been that if I hadn't had a conversation with the costume designer. And so it like taking something like that, these important conversations and how to communicate with a design team enhances the work, it enhances the collaboration, and makes everybody's work shine. But it also is important because when you're a performer and you're not necessarily like in communication with those people, you still know how to communicate with those people and be communicated with. And that is a skill that like a lot of performers think they just know better. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's not necessarily always about the performer. There is so much that happens around the performer that is just beautiful storytelling.
Yeah, that big emphasis on collaboration is I think key for our industry too, because it teaches us how to create art that is bigger than just the individual components as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Talk about Quadruple Threat. Is it Quadruple Threat Studios or just Quadruple Threat, or
Quadruple Threat Studios, yeah, it's sort of been born out of this pandemic. It was basically stuff that I had been doing on and off my whole life, but just now it has a name on it. And when there weren't any jobs at all, a friend of mine reached out and asked. This was like about exactly a year ago, when we were really like in the lockdown and really in the lockdown. And she asked, "Hey, would you ever consider teaching voice lessons?" And I was like, "Well, I've done coaching like kind of on an as needed basis before." And she's like, "Well, my daughter really wants to learn how to sing." And so I started teaching her weekly voice lessons during the pandemic virtually, which then like word of mouth spread. And so all of a sudden I had like 12, 15 students in my studio studying voice, piano, and dance. And that really sustained me both creatively and financially through this pandemic. And it was a great joy. It broke up my day. It kept me busy enough, but not overly busy. And I always love working with young people, so it satisfied that as well.
It's again that adaptability and that versatility like is coming back, and especially that you were able during the pandemic when every theater person ever is like, what do I do? You were just like, "Meh, I got all these in my back pocket, let me like be able to continue my life and like actually like build something with it."
Definitely.
Is there like a website people can go to or like a Instagram handle or something? I don't know. For
You know,
quadruple
the
threat
one
city.
thing I did not do during the pandemic was make a website. I had all the time in the world to do it, and I didn't. But people know how to get a hold of me. No, I do. I am on the Instagram, MKE's for threat. The number, so the number four.
The number four.
That's a T, not a four.
When, I mean, not to date you, but when did you go to UWM?
Well, I started back in 2007, and I graduated in fall of 2011. We had a theater representative, a dance, and a music representative. Well, Darcy and there was a voice faculty member named Bill Lavonis who sort of represented the music component of things. And Bill Watson, I think, was actually like the theater part of the musical theater oligarchy. And so now like we just have like one go-to person, which is kind of nice.
Like, what experiences did you have at UWM that you feel like might have prepared you for the real world or like the working world, I guess?
The dance training, I mean, the dance training benefited me, and I wouldn't be a choreographer if I hadn't taken as much dance as I could. I think I threw in some extra dance classes whenever I could fit extra stuff in my schedule. And so the dance training really paid off. I grew up going to see Kothi African Dance Company. My dad worked for Milwaukee Public School System, and so he had connections to it. And we went and saw African dance. And so I knew who Fern is. And I wrote a paper on her in seventh grade and on her, like her history and her company. And to have her then as like a teacher. And like I took African, I think 3 semesters, and that was like the greatest class. Like I had her for 2 of the semesters, and like it was like full circle, and like meeting an idol. Like I was so starstruck, like, oh my god, she's on the faculty here. She doesn't know who I am, but like I I I pushed myself every day in that class. And oh man, I was in killer shape by the end of that semester. Ugh. One of the great things about UW Milwaukee with the faculty is that they're all out working in the professional community in their respective areas in Milwaukee. And I would not have gotten a lot of the jobs without some of my professors' input or recommendation, which is one of the main reasons to go to UW Milwaukee is that network. Danny Kipper is one of the loves of my life and was one of my favorite professors, and she's someone that I have collaborated with so many times since college, and like she's hired me for lots of stuff like with Dance Works, and now she's working out at the Shower Arts Center, and she's bringing me on to do a whole week-long camp there. And so I had her for modern for a couple semesters, and then she was one of the faculty members whose pieces I got cast in that was Winter Dances, which was just a wonderful, amazing experience. And she really pushed me and showed me like you can do more, Ryan. Like you can do more like than you think you can. And
What would you say if like for incoming freshmen or like anybody who's like looking at going to school anywhere, what would be like your biggest piece of advice?
yeah, I would definitely say pursue as much opportunity as you can handle. There's definitely a tipping point. I tended to do a lot of outside activities. Like I was teaching for First Stage the entirety of my college career. I would do community shows whenever I could. I remember like when we did hair, like there were a lot of acting BFAs in the show. There were some voice majors in the show. There were a couple dance majors in the show. I I loved hair. I did hair there, and then I did it at Skylight, and like both times, like that show just changed my life. It's such a powerful show. It's a show that really like brings community together, and it brought it. I mean, there were people in all the departments, and like ultimately we did bond, and it's like it was a really great and successful show. The whole run sold out, which was really cool. Like, and there would be people like dressed as hippies coming to the and like by dressed as hippies it was like that's like what they normally would wear on a day to day, and like
Oh my gosh.
they like it was their time period on stage, like they lived that, and it was so cool to like dance with them and party with them at the end of the show. And so that was definitely a highlight. I also did show tune, which it's a review of Jerry Herman music, and
Oh.
that was just musical theater kids, and like that was a lot of that really brought our department really close together. I went to school with Trixie Mattel, like we were in the same grade, and so like it's so crazy like to see how well she has done, and like she's exactly the same person that we all went to school with, and it's really
Oh.
cool that we can kind of claim her as our own.
Absolutely. Is there any way if people are interested, like any socials they should follow or any way that they can get in contact with you? Obviously, you said, oh, sorry.
Instagram, yeah, MKE's four threat or quadruple threat. Um, or you can just find me on Facebook, Ryan Cap, CAPP.
Is there anything that you want to like leave us with or um leave the listeners with?
Watch Working the Musical. It streams very soon.
All right, thank you, Ryan, so much for letting me interview you. This was amazing. Again, everybody go stream Working the Musical. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.